Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pleased to take a call in the committee stage of this bill, which has really been a very troublesome period in New Zealand history. And much of that is actually down to the awful process that has led to its gestation and coming to this House, and the awful process that was driven by this government. I would like to start, though, by giving the Minister in the chair a bit of a tick for his, it's a bit late, but for his acknowledgement of the importance of engaging with the New Zealand community and actually listening to them. Problem is, it's a bit after the horses bolted situation, but at least he does seem to have a different approach as the Trade Minister, and hopefully that will lead to a less divisive situation in our country in future. And but that's about all of the tick that I would give to the government on this. A couple of points to make first is that, and it will be made over and over again on this side of the House by the Labour Party, and that is that the Labour Party is the party of free trade. And we have always sought to deliver the benefits of free trade to New Zealand and to reduce the barriers to growth for our firms and for the workforce. But this deal is an example of how a government did not trust the New Zealand people, did not talk to the New Zealand people, and instead chose to negotiate the deal in secret and to exclude the New Zealand people. And that lack of trust and that, I guess, ultimate being out of touch approach has helped contribute to where we're at now. We're also in a situation of great farce because, number one, we're debating a bill in the House which gives effect to something that we've already signed. And the second reason it's a farce is because we have a US election, we have two candidates that do not support the TPPA, and so who knows what's going to happen next, and this is likely to all be a complete waste of time. It's also a farce because we traded away things that we shouldn't have traded away for very little gain. And I think, pretty much everyone in New Zealand acknowledges that. There remains a lot of distrust in the community, with 39% of exporting small businesses that support the TPP say the MYOB in its 2016 survey of 1,000 small businesses. That's very disappointing for the government. The Minister in his contribution before in the House talked about how this is about services. Yes, it is about services, and a lot of the services and the future of this country lies in its ability to innovate and its ability to protect its own IP, and a lot of that is in software development, in the tech industry, and it feels as if this agreement got negotiated on a wavelength that was very much rooted in the past. And I hope that this is what the Minister is learning as he's going around the country, talking to the likes of NZ Rise, who represent the innovation companies, some of the innovation companies that are New Zealand-based, and that we need to protect and ensure that we are enabling them to have the best possible start so that they can build our economic development. But unfortunately, that isn't what happened. I want to support tonight Gareth Hughes. The Labour Party supports Gareth Hughes' amendment which is the Fair Use Amendment, the insertion of the Fair Use Amendment, which he also has as a, Mr. Chair.
Here, Karen.
Which he also has as a private member's bill. And I want to say that this is not only sensible, it's actually, it's playing catch-up. It's playing catch-up with the major partner that we're trading with and negotiating this TPP with, which is the US, which already actually includes fair use in its copyright law. Mr. Chair, in his amendment explanatory note, he talks about which extends this bill extends and introduces United States-styled copyright terms without the corresponding United States-styled fair use copyright provisions. Well, just so that people know what fair use is, the definition of fair use is, and it's in the basis of which is in US copyright law, is the doctrine that brief excerpts of copyright material may, under certain circumstances, be quoted verbatim for the purposes such as criticism, news reporting, teaching and research without the need for permission for or payment from the copyright holder. This is not something that we should be arguing about. It's something that should be just sensibly included. I want to refer to a report that was came out of the University of Auckland, written by Louise Longden in just over a decade ago, which talked about the Statute of Anne. And I'm sure everyone in this House knows what the Statute of Anne is, which is that ever since copyright was conferred on authors by the Statute of Anne in 1709 for the encouragement of learning, one issue in particular has troubled and divided the world's trading nations, which is the problem of how to fairly balance the interests of creators and the owners of copyright material against the needs of those who wish to use and build on that material, or maybe even just parody or criticise it. Another quote from this report says, and this goes to the importance of supporting the innovation economy in New Zealand, which is that the whole of, and this is a quote from Justice H. Laddie, the whole of human development is derivative. We stand on the shoulders of the scientists, artists and craftsmen who precede us. We borrow and develop what they have done, not necessarily as parasites, but simply as the next generation. It is at the heart of what we know as progress. Borrowing and developing have always been acceptable. But Mr. Chair, what this bill does, one of the things this bill does, is that it extends the term of copyright from 50 years to 70 years without any corresponding fairness. Without any corresponding fairness and balance, which acknowledges the digital environment on which our future economy needs to be based, and it trades away something of which we don't get anything back. And we are poorer as a nation for that, and my concern is that when this deal was negotiated, that there were people who did the negotiating who didn't seem to get that. And I hope that as the Minister is going around the country talking to people, and I hope that he is talking genuinely to communities of interest in all parts of New Zealand, in all industries, in our universities, our researchers, our librarians, our teachers, that he understands just what the importance of that is. And while this provision, this amendment by Gareth Hughes, it's not the most major thing that's come before the House, but it actually would be a step forward. It would be an acknowledgement to the people of New Zealand that there has been a shift in thinking, that there is the ability for the government to acknowledge that perhaps it could have done things a bit differently, and perhaps it would rebuild some trust between the community who was so upset and anti about the lack of acknowledgement of their views, that it might rebuild some trust back in that direction.
Catherine Delahunty.